Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Music Made Me. Thank you so much for joining us once again. We truly do appreciate the support each and every week. Please make sure you are liking, sharing, following, subscribing to us on whatever streaming service you are listening on, and head over to social media. Give us a follow there as well so you can stay up to date on all the exciting episodes that we have coming up in the future. Today, we're sitting down with Canadian-born and current Nashville resident Manny Blu. He has had an interesting journey because music didn't actually become a thing for him until an older age. Sports was the focus growing up, and it wasn't until an injury during his MMA career that music really started to take shape within his life. We talked about that, and we also talked about his karaoke days growing up and the influence that has had on his current music. So please enjoy our conversation with Manny Blu. In a lot of interviews, everything kind of skips right to your injury and moves on from there. But
Yeah.
my podcast is called The Music Made Me, and I like to really dive into the past and find out, how music was there. So I really want to go way back to your childhood before, jumping into the music. And I know that both your mom and dad were musical. I believe your mom was classically trained on the piano, was she not?
Yep. Yep. For a little bit.
So how
Yeah.
did that all work out when you were young then? Was a piano something that she got you into? Like, did you do that at all when you were young, or was that more her thing?
Definitely more her thing. I never played piano. Um, Something that we always had her in the house, and I'd hear her. I mean, she grew up, younger playing it, and then it kind of fizzled out as she got older and started working and stuff. So it was much more of a younger thing, but she'll pick it up every now and again and always kind of being around the house and hearing her, go through scales and practicing songs and stuff that she can read music that I can't read music. So it's funny when we try to play some songs together that we both enjoy, and I'll have, if it's a song that I'm not as familiar with, I'll maybe have some kind of chart, that has the chords, and she'll have the music, and we both can't read each other's thing.
Oh, really?
Um, yeah, because she did. I mean, she had, taken some guitar lessons, but an A minor 7, if you don't know what that is on a chart, then you don't know what I'm playing really finger
Right.
wise. So yeah, but it's cool. It was one of those things that when I decided to kind of take music more seriously, she's like, "You should learn piano," and I'm like, "No, guitar's cool. I want to be a cool guy. I don't want to play a piano. I want a keyboard. I want to play guitar. I want to be a cool guy with the electric guitar and the whole swag of that." So in hindsight, I do wish I would have learned piano, just for the sheer fact that I think John Mayer put it great. He goes, "You can't capo a piano." So all of the notes are literally lying in front of you, kind of like a keyboard on a computer. You have, if
Right.
you, once you learn it, you know where everything is, and it's right there. And every vocal teacher that I've ever had, we always worked with a piano. And so to be able to, had I thought that far ahead, in picking an instrument, I think I would have perhaps benefited a lot more from the keyboards, and it would have been a cool thing to be able to do. But guitar is where I'm at, and I'm having fun with it, so we're fine.
And on the vocal side, both your mom and your dad could sing, correct?
Yeah, my dad's a showman. He loves the stage. He loves the mic, whether that's public speaking, that's just telling a story, or I grew up with him singing karaoke. We always had a karaoke machine at the house, so it was always just like a fun thing to do. And I always loved singing with him, and or taking turns. And so he was always, even just for us, like he was always a showman and always that. And my mom has a really strong, powerful voice, but she's more timid. So it's like
Oh,
a really
okay.
fun, a difference between the two. And my dad once said, he goes, "Man, if I had my stage presence and my ability, or my showmanship, and my wife's ability to sing, Well, I'd be in Vegas. Well, actually, no, it's Manny, basically. We have one. we
Right.
created it, and it's Manny. And I was like, damn, okay, cool. That's a really cool way to put that. So that's always been sort of a fun thing in the back of in the back of my head. My dad sang at a party one time, and sitting on the stool, very crooner-esque. He loves like the crooner thing. And I remember watching him, and then my grandmother threw a flower on the stage. So everybody started taking the centerpiece and started throwing flowers on stage. And there's a really cool picture of him kind of like half seated on the stool, like with his arms out, with all the flowers all over the. It's a really cool picture, and that's sort of one of my most inspirational photos of like just enjoy the moment and put on a show for people, because that's it. Because at first, we started off the tour up in Canada, and I was timid, and I was like, I hope they like me. I hope they like me. But at the end of the day, they're there to watch a show, and you've got to put on the show that you can, right? And
Yeah.
they'll, you're never gonna, they're either gonna like you or they're not, right? And so, but you gotta just give it, go all out, and it's gonna be what's gonna be.
Yeah, I was
So
gonna say it's a good thing you took after your dad rather than your mom with that whole thing, right? Because it could have been a very different path if you were more timid and didn't
yeah.
have that confidence to actually follow this journey.
Yeah, I think I got the exactly. So I think I got the showmanship from him, and I got the power and the musical knowledge from my mom.
And now let's talk about, well, actually talk about your first memory of singing with your dad. Like, how old were you? Have you always known that you had a voice in that way?
Yeah, kind of. Just because we would have friends over, and everyone sees a karaoke machine, and there's two paths. There's either like, oh my god, yes, I'm so in. Whether they can sing or not is besides the point.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, I want to sing. This is great. This is gonna be so much fun. And then the other one's like, no, no, I'm not a singer. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna put myself on that sort of platform. So I was always a guy who was kind of like the most excited to do it. Like if we went out and there's some spots out in Montreal that are karaoke bars or rooms, where everyone is secluded to the group that they're with,
Right.
and nobody wants to be the first. And I'm like, well, I have enough confidence in myself to do it. This is before picking it up as a career.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I would do it, everyone's like, well, no, now we can't follow you now. I don't want to sing anymore. So it's like there's always been that sort of like I was one of the better ones in the room, like, just like the best guy at the karaoke bar kind of thing, like, or within the group of people who are there. So that kind of started making me think a little bit that if I actually really tried, where can I go and what can I do? And so it was another type of, karaoke seems to be our sort of party theme, but it was a karaoke party where similar scenario where my dad's like, hey, let's just go break the ice. My parents were hosting. So he's like, come, let's sing a song that we do together, which is Drops of Jupiter by Train.
Oh, okay.
Um, and he goes, let's do the thing. So everyone knew he likes to sing and he's got the presence and the showmanship. And so he starts the song. And then when I sing, everybody just kind of like goes, oh, whoa. And that moment I was like, I want to do this. Like, this is cool. This is so cool. And so there that, combining with, once that happened, picking up the guitar and wanting to, and playing songs for my friends, and everybody say, hey, play this. I love that song. I love that song. I love, whatever. So doing that. So all of that combined was just like, okay, I'm feeling this. And I think that there's perhaps, if I really want to put the work ethic into it, I think there's perhaps a path here for me. So my mom much prefers watching me sing than fight. So I had her support pretty quick.
Yeah, I bet. And let's talk about that fighting, starting training at 16 compared to your drive when you found music. Was it a comparable drive when you first found MMA?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I grew up dyslexic. I mean, still am. But so school was always hard. So I always had a work ethic I knew I had to always work harder. And I remember a time where, somebody got, I think, a B minus or something, and I was just happy to pass. And
Right.
they're crying and they're upset. And it's this whole conspiracy as a teacher doesn't like her. And I'm like, man, if only I had that luxury to complain about a B minus, like, and cry about it. I'd be stoked. So it was always that thing where it's like, for better or worse, I've always been told I'm very tunnel vision, in
Okay.
that I have one thing in my head, and it's like nothing else around me or in the world matters till except for that thing. And It was like that when I grew up playing hockey. It was like that when I turned to MMA, and it's been like that, in music. And I think that that's the number one thing that I always have in my back pocket is just the willingness to learn and the work ethic combined. You're not always going to get it on the first go, but just got to keep pushing it. And and I think now, this was back in 2014, and I feel like now it's starting to pay some dividend, and we're starting to get some really cool looks.
Right. And you started training at 16. So how many years was it before your injury that you were competing?
4 years. I was doing MMA for 4 years. I was 16, very, very green and raw. And just, I had the compete level. I've always been ultra competitive. So that's what kind of drew me to it is like, I've played sports my whole life. There is no ultimate competition than one-on-one, hand combat. And that's kicks and elbows and knees and takedowns and all that stuff, which is to me even more competitive than boxing. So that's what drew me to it. And my trainer, who's a pro MMA fighter as well, his name is Nordin Taleb. He's been like such a mentor to me in fighting, and also just in an overview of life as a whole. And there's certain dark places you go to in training that only other fighters can get.
Right.
And so he's been through hell and back, in comparison to what I have experience. So it was nice to always have a guy sort of, on behind, having your back that is like, hey, I've done it all. Like, I've experienced it all. I've fought through broken ribs. I've broken my hand. I've broken my foot. And then everything else that goes with fighting besides just the injuries, he's experienced it. So it was really cool to have him have my back. Yeah, I didn't spar till at least 2 years in. Even
Wow.
just to spar with experienced guys. It took me 4 years before I even got the opportunity to take my first amateur fight. And that's the one that tore my quad, and
Oh, wow.
was thank God I won, because it'd be a lot harder to give it up if I would end on a loss. But it was just my interest that changed at that point, and because I had found the ability to sing and play guitar. And it was something that I really fell in love with and really wanted to pursue. And I couldn't do both. I mean, like I said, I got it's kind of one track mind. So when I decided to kind of end it all, it was like a very emotional day at the gym with my trainer. And he's like, hey, look, we'll still hang out, and it's all good, dude. Like, and he goes, the right move is to stop when you don't feel it anymore. Because the worst thing you want to do is hesitate, be super hesitant on it. And whether that's in training or in a fight, the last thing you want to do is be hesitant. And that's going to lead to longer term injuries, bigger injuries, just stuff that you don't want to deal with. So he's like, hey, look, if I can't force you, because I'm not going to put you in there if your head's not 100% there, so that was it. And I turned over to music, and here we are.
You first sort of dipped your toe back into music when you listened to BB King,
Oh yeah.
and that sort of got your juices flowing again. So from there, what was the progression like in starting to perform? Was it pretty quick?
Yeah, I man, it was BB King. He's the guy who got me wanting to play guitar,
Right.
because you typically think of singers strumming and playing rhythm, while lead guitar players playing the lead parts and the solos. But I didn't know any of that terminology, that concept, or anything. So it was just weird that he's singing and then he's playing and then he's singing and then he's playing. So that was super intriguing. So I really wanted to learn what that was about. And then it kind of went up. I wanted to see who was doing it. Recently, like who were the new modern guys doing sort of blues, and I got into John Mayer and Gary Clark Jr. And some of those guys. And then you look at some heavy guitar stuff, and my buddies were listening to the pop country stuff, so I was playing that for them. But I'm like, there's got to be somewhere that blends the two. And I thought Cadillac 3 was pretty cool, because they've got some bluesiness, some funk, some hard rock, and stuff. So the transition after everything opened up for me was very strange, because I love John Mayer. I still love John Mayer. I think as far as an artist goes, he's one of the best. And I can put him on anytime and enjoy the thing. And so that's where that inspiration came from. But in moving into country and making this a career and finding my space in it, guys like Cadillac 3, guys like Hardy and Coetzel, have been, super cool because they're doing it different. So, I mean, I've always liked guys that push the mold a little bit, and
Right.
push the envelope, and got Brittany Gilbert's another one who's like doing metal music with country, things. So, and to segue into, that's kind of how I discovered country punk was, where do I sit and where's my place in country. And I felt like country rock has its own set of sort of sound now, in that it's heavy, but it's still super it's still super southern rock, and there's not much tempo, and um it's not rock, and like, it's not, country rock doesn't have that rock and roll, sort of flair and glam, and stuff like that. So,
Right.
that's where I felt the sort of the punk thing came from. I think also growing up, being born in 94 and growing up in the 2000s, you got all of those sort of college, when you're young, you're looking at movies like American Pie, and there's some nude scenes, and you feel rebellious, and it's all that pop punk stuff. And now pop punk's having a sort of rebirth, which is awesome. And so I just kind of feel like, with everything that I love and everything that I know, and COVID, and have been able to be very introspective as far as what I want to do moving forward. We were able to come up with country punk, which is really just, it's country music, country songwriting to the core, with just a punk attitude of going like, hey, this is what I want to do. I don't want to be put in a box of, hey, that's country, or that's not country, or that's, just be like, I want to make the music I want to make. It's always going to have that country songwriting and storytelling to the core, and that country purpose. But it's always going to be, I like to be, expect the unexpected type. And so some will have some punk influence, some won't, but it's just, the approach is, I'm going to make the music that I want, that I feel is super cool, and that we're having fun with.
Right. And how did it work that, I know Jim Cressman was one of the first guys that you hooked up
Yeah.
with, and then he introduced you to Nathan, who brought you down to Nashville. So between when you learned guitar and when you met Jim, like, were you performing during that span, or how did it work out that you met him and things started to go quick, it seems?
Yeah. Yeah, that's some research in there. Yeah. Um, Jim was great. So I had started played some shows, and I had a manager back home who was just kind of good because she knew the music scene, in Montreal and in Quebec.
Right.
Um, that was about it. And so then I was like, we need to move on. And I had my previous manager, who was the guy who introduced me to, Jim Cressman. I had a meeting with, actually, Jim Cressman was nice enough to fly down. He was passing through, and made a stop in Montreal before going home. So, I mean, that was all. I'm always grateful for that, because he was the one who was able to get me down to Nashville, because he knew another man named Gilles Godard, who was at Olay, I believe it's now called Anthem.
Right.
And they sent me some songs. They said, "Do you feel like you have to write all your songs, or do you or are you good if we send you some?" Which was a nice way of saying your songs suck. Um, but I was like, no, my favorite thing to do is perform live. And if there's better song, I didn't even know the concept of a publisher that sends songs to artists. That was brand new to me. So I was like, wow, if I don't even have, if like there's better people writing songs who've been doing it longer than I have, I want to sing them. I want to get in the biggest environment, and the coolest place to be able to sing the songs, to the most amount of people at one time. So, I
Right.
mean, and I said, I'm not, my ego can rest on the songwriting side. And, I do, my favorite thing to do is play live. So, I was able to get down here. It was actually, Jim Selby from Concord who introduced me to Nathan.
Oh,
Because
okay.
my old manager was down here taking meetings while I was in studio and recording all the stuff that they had sent me, and songs I had picked. And when we met, he met Jim Selby and said, "Hey, I think there's this great guy who's got an artist development company here in Nashville. His name's Nathan." And I was like, "Cool." So once that path with my old manager kind of ran its course, and after having been in Nashville for about a year and a half and working with Nathan, Nathan's like, I want to, if he's out, I want to be your manager. I want to do this with you, and I think we have the opportunity to go to do some really cool things. And I said, I'm very down. So that's how we ended up here.
And your first trip to Nashville, like, what was that like? Is it pretty intimidating? at that point? Because you're very new to
Yeah.
Nashville, and just even performing, you're fairly new. So what was that like?
It was, what was intimidating was I didn't know how intimidating it was till I got here. And then I went down to Broadway and saw everybody playing requests and stuff. And then the intimidating thing was like, I don't know this many songs. I don't know all of this stuff. Am I going to have to do this? Because my old manager at the time, I'll be very honest, didn't know very much. He was more of a connections guy, right? So
Oh,
he's like,
okay.
you got to learn all these songs. You got to learn the old Garth. You got to learn the old, George Jones. You got to learn all of these songs because if somebody requests, you have to play it. You have to play it. Being down here a little bit, I understand how it works. And Nathan was like, "That's no. I mean, Broadway is really cool, and there's some really good guys doing it down there. There's, you get all kinds, to be honest, down on Broadway. But there's some artists that are really, really good, and I got a really good friend who plays there, who's just releasing some stuff now, Blaine Holcomb, and he's unreal. So there, you get all kinds down there, but it's a choice. That's not a path. It's a path. It's not the path to I'm doing the music that I want to do and kind of getting signed or whatever. So I think that kind of opened up and that chilled and they said, hey, you're new to Nashville. And this was Nathan before he sort of took the steering wheel of my career. He said, you're new to Nashville. Let's, take it easy. We'll find you a band, guys that you can hang out with, guys that you can, go for beer with and whatever, because I was doing a lot of stuff with him, and I mean, he's got a wife and a kid, and he can't be out with me drinking beer every night. So he's like, I
Right.
get you someone who can. And I'm like, great. And I ended up being, my drummer and my guitar player, and then we ended up building the band, and we've had some transformations in between, from then and now. But once you get into it, once you start to learn, and you get adapted into the community, and you start to learn a little bit about how things work. It made me want to work harder, right? It made me more excited to get better and have a better show. And now we're at a very fun point where every little thing does matter, right? At the time, it's
Right.
like, well, just get the band, get the songs, let's get the shows. And now get this, the stuff recorded and get your vocals up to get them on par with what else is going on. And now it's like, let's go bigger, let's go crazier. Like every little, everything is important. And that's what's super cool, because now is the time that besides the music, besides the songs, now we get really creative with the show and the branding and all that kind of cool stuff that I get to do. So
Right.
now it's just kind of, we've got the concept, we've got, the people that are listening, and hopefully we get more. But now it's really, we're having a lot of fun. So it was, a little bit of work to get here, but I'm really happy where we're at, and not 100% content. There's always more, but well, I'm in a really fun space where we have some really cool songs. We have some more stuff coming that's even, cooler, and just, everything's cool. I'm having fun with everything.
And so you released your debut, Leave It Like It Is, and then in 2020 you had New Ink.
Yes.
Now, were those two very different processes? Because like you say, maybe on the debut you were just kind of throwing stuff together just to get something out, whereas with New Ink, were you much more focused on what is my sound, where do I want to go?
Yes, 100%. Well, it wasn't about throwing something together to get it out. It was just all I knew.
Right.
And then having been here and sitting on the album, because I recorded that before moving to Nashville. And then I got to Nashville, and then it was the development side of getting everything in order and getting, what's the goal? What's the point? What are you trying to say? What is all of that behind the scenes stuff had to get done, because I hadn't been in Nashville. Nobody knew what I wanted to do.
Right.
So, but I had a record ready to go. So it was kind of this weird, like, hey, let's get all this stuff going really quick, and we can put this record out, but all this has to happen before this comes out. Otherwise, it's going to fall flat, and nobody's going to know about it, and there's nothing going on. So that was a bit of the process. And in that process, I said, you know what? I think there's a space to add some of that, the rock stuff and the blues stuff that I really, really like. And sort of the unpredictability, I think, is shown in like a song like Sync, where it's like, doesn't really fit a genre, doesn't really fit a style, or it's just a vibe. And that's what I think is super cool. And that's, I think, what's been sort of the lineage between all the projects we've had is just, being a little bit outside the box and just having fun. And now I'm really able to dive deeper into it and stand, sort of on my 2 feet, very proud of like, hey, I do stand outside, because for a while I wanted to participate so bad that I don't think I was being super genuine or being authentic to myself, because
Right.
I'm from a big city. I'm singing country music, all this stuff, and I'm new here, so I really want to fit in, until I decided it's actually cooler not to fit in and be different. So I went back to my, because I think there was a lot of things about myself in general that growing up, I love fashion, I love style and clothes and looks and all this really cool creative stuff that I put aside for a bit because like that's not country.
Right.
Now I'm like, country music really is about the songwriting and the community and the storytelling. So everything else around it to me doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, the songs still are country songs. They're just,
Yeah.
the instrumentation could be a little more punk or a little more rock or a little bit more American, whatever it is. But the main point of country music is the storytelling and the songwriting. And I think there's that in every song. So then how I want to present it afterwards really goes based on the vibe of the song, and what I'm feeling. So I've always been called too rock for country or too country for rock. So I just kind of decided to lean into it and be like, why does it have to be one or the other?
Yeah.
Why can't we just have fun with music? And and again, there's the guys that are keeping country music, the traditional country music, alive, which is great. Guys like John Party, guys like Cody Johnson, and that's important too, right? And I think that because they're doing it, I'm allowed to do stuff on the outside a little bit. Not everybody has to be traditional country music to be country artists. I think the beauty of country right now is the fact that there are so many different colors and there are so many different things, and country is now opening up right next to pop. It's like rock, like pop rock and all this stuff that's going on all goes on the pop charts. Then you got country, and country
Right.
now is right in that space. And I think that's so cool that there's so many people doing different things that we can compete against all genres, just because we have the ability. There are people doing, so many cool different things. So I mean, I think, I've always said that I don't think I'm really for a purist of one or the other, whether it's punk or country. But I mean, at the end of the day too, there's too much music to be a hardcore purist of one, So here's the other option: is you just don't have to listen to it if you don't like it. You turn it off and put something else that you like. I mean, it's not difficult. So that's kind of where I sit on it. Long-winded answer. I forget what the question was, but I hope I answered it somewhere in my rambling.
I'm sure somewhere you did. And it's an exciting day today, because today you released that your new EP is going to be released in August.
Yes.
So talk about the process of this. And you talk about, really diving into your sound and being comfortable with your sound. And so heading into this EP, does that make it more difficult to pick songs because you are sort of looking for what's going to be your sound, or does it make it easy because you know what you want your sound to be?
Yeah, I mean, I think we came up with country punk as a term after this album was recorded. I think that, but it just naturally fit.
Right.
I feel like this EP is really I call it some sort of a mixtape of things I've done in the past and places I want to go, in the future and everything in between. I think there's a couple of songs on there that kind of bring back New Ink and could be on New Ink. I think there's there's a super really cool acoustic-y ballad song I have with a female artist that I absolutely love and respect so much. And so that's really cool. And then, Train happened to have that, I think that was one of those things where it's like, it brings me back to like the 2000s, that has that sort of thin acoustic, electric guitar, kind of palm muted, almost four on the floor type feel of pop punk. So,
Yeah.
and that just happened, kind of on what I was listening to. And it happened based on like pandemic. I'm listening to a lot more music. I'm opening up my mind musically to a lot of other things that I used to like in the past that I kind of put away because it wasn't country. And I
Oh,
said, for
okay.
this one, I kind of want all the influences to just come in and just flow. And I think that this is a really cool project to showcase uh, my vocal ability that I haven't really got to showcase much in the past. Um, Different sonic styles and things that we're playing with, and just overall a really cool story of like the lineage of the whole thing is super cool, I think. So I'm really excited to have it all out.
And you've had the chance to pick songs from some pretty big songwriters. But I know that I've heard you talk about that you didn't necessarily know who wrote the song before you picked it. That came after. And
Mhm.
so for this album, were there certain writers that you had picked songs from on the last record that you knew, fit your sound and you wanted to see what they brought to the table? Or are you just working on the song and it doesn't matter who the writers are on it?
um yeah, it doesn't really matter what the who the writers are on it, really, for me. At the beginning, you start to see a couple of names pop up again, where it's like there's probably some cool things, and one of them being Aaron Esses, who produced New Ink, and he produced this new project Devil.
Oh, okay.
And there's a few more songs on this EP that he wrote. He wrote Old Money on New Ink. And I love that sound, and I love that vibe that he brought, and I think he's got a very cool way of writing, or at least the instrumentation being a little dark, a little heavy,
Oh, okay.
on otherwise a very beautiful melody and beautiful storyline. So I think the juxtaposition of the two is super cool. So yeah, he's got a few he's got a few more rights, I guess, on this EP. Just because I liked what he did on New Ink, and I was working with him again, and kind of was more interested in what else he had sort of in the repertoire, or in that thing. So um I was super cool to go through the process that way, already knowing New Ink was out or coming out, and then doing, the whole process again of going through songs. Thankfully, we have a great relationship because of Aaron with Smack Songs, the publisher,
Right.
and so we were able to have a much more in depth conversation as far as songs we're looking for, things you want to say, styles and vibes and things like that. So what was cool was we weren't rushed to put out New Ink, so we weren't rushed to make this new one. So we
Right.
were really able to have a sit down conversation, myself and my manager, who we both love to geek out on music. I've got my way of looking at it and things, and he's got his, former artist, kind of came up in the punk scene, the screamo, hard metal thing scene. So very different backgrounds, but love the same thing, and showing each other new music and things like that, and just him having been through the process as an artist, and as a band leader, and doing the whole thing. He's able to go, hey, I hear you talk a lot about XYZ. Why have you ever thought about it? And it
Right.
always takes me a couple of days to go, okay, wait, I didn't think of it like that. But okay, wait, I might be into this. Let's have this conversation. So the pandemic really was allowed us to just have almost 2 hour conversations every day about music and sounds and things that I wanted. And he was the one that was like, hey, I think what might be really cool is if you start taking your vocals even more seriously, and become like this powerhouse vocalist. And it was kind of a thing that I was like, you know what, we're not doing much right now, so why not? And I think
Right.
that now, with the songs that we have on YouTube, like Blow and Dead by Rock and Roll, I think I was able to pull off those songs because of the hard work I did been putting into my vocals. And those little things come through in certain songs on Devil. So I'm just super stoked about everything we've got going on right now. And it's just a lot more fun to sing and have and be an artist now, because all of the branding, the questioning of like what direction, and all of those kinds of stuff are kind of gone. And now
Right.
it's, I've done a lot of different things that were suggested, and I said I didn't say no to anything at first in Nashville. It was like, let's just come in, let's just see what happens. I don't know, so let's try. If I try it and I don't like it, I could say I don't like it and I don't want to do that again.
Right.
Whether that's a look, a vibe, a sound, whatever it is. So um that was it. And now I'm just at a very comfortable spot of like, hey, this is who I am. You know, I love this, I love that. This is the songs that we're making, and now it's really just really cool to have fun. Uh,
And you're working on your vocals, you're discovering who you are. On the writing side, is that something you're also developing? Could we see you writing in the future on your albums?
We I tried it. I hate it.
Oh yeah.
I uh, I mean, I did it a long time ago before moving to Nashville, and then with the songs we were getting from publishers, I didn't have to.
Yeah.
And it was really more about the performance and the showmanship and the ability to put on a show that I was more interested in than the songwriting. Um, with country punk, and we're maybe working on a project after Devil. The idea was like, hey, we don't know what country punk is. You have to create it. You have to write it, and you have to indicate us in which way we want to go, which way you want to go with this. And I tried to write. I sat in 4 sessions, I think. And to songwriters listening might be like, that's not enough. But I absolutely hated being there. I felt like I was just like dead weight, that was just not participating in very much. And I just don't like the 4 hours of sitting around thinking of throwing words out, and then one guy going no, and then the 2 guys got into an argument. I was just like, this is not for me. But we found guys. So I went back to my manager. I said, like, I tried, and I really hate it. Like, I
Right.
really hate it. So there might be a different aspect as far as like how I want to oversee, my feel of country punk. And there may or may not be a project at some point that I co-produce. So we'll see.
So many questions left up in the air. So many things. Well, that's
But
awesome.
as of right now, we have Devil and Might As Well Lead coming out soon. So that's my main focus right now. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's awesome. And it's perfect timing with everything opening up and actually being, I know I've seen on Instagram, you've been doing a lot of rehearsals, getting set
Yes.
for when you can return, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think the most important thing, well, with the live and turned up stuff that we had done, we were taking, one um one straight shot of the song. So there was no editing, and we did the song maybe twice or 3 times, but with some of those songs I don't want to be singing them 2 or 3 times back to back. So the idea was really to get them in almost the first take.
Right.
Um you do a second one just in case something magical happens, but the idea was to run them through like a show, and just bang them out. And so the idea, so we rehearsed for them like a show.
Right.
And so that took most of our attention, besides the stuff that we were working on as far as projects. That took a lot of you know rehearsal attention, and playing, and all that kind of stuff. Performance wise, that took a lot of our attention in November, December. Well, November we had New Ink come out, and we played a album release party for that.
Yeah.
And then there was the Live and Turned Up Volume 1 that we did. And then right after coming off of Christmas break, we gave everybody about a good month, and to kind of unwind and chill, and hopefully 2021 has some magical powers of ending COVID. It didn't, so we did Live and Turned Up 2, and it was right out of vacation that was the number one focus. And Live and Turned Up Volume 2 has been super cool, and we're still in the middle of releasing that. But the idea really is to just be releasing stuff, all year. And so we have a show coming up now, which is going to be the Might As Well Lead single release party, which I'm super excited about. And so, yeah, I mean, we're constantly like, the other thing too is just being ready, right? If something happens and someone's like, oh, you need an opener for somebody, that we're ready, and we're tight, and we're good to go.
Right.
So we were able to do that. And in the process, also do something fun for us, which was a Live and Turned Up thing, because when you go, we want to get this in one take. If you besides the playfulness of the crowd, you get that sort of adrenaline of like, hey, we're playing, it's not rehearsal there. Like, we're playing a song for real. Let's try to get it. I mean, also egos and pride come in, and you want to get it in the first take. So, but every now and again, after doing it one time, you get that sort of magical thing that happens in the room. And because you can't get it with the crowd. I mean, I think if there's a crowd, we can all get it in one shot for the most part. But because there's no crowd, you get that energy and that creativeness that the crowd typically would bring. You can get it on the second take. So, but we wanted to do it. We didn't want to take from the first chorus of the second take, and the second chorus of the third. We didn't want to start playing that game, because then we just go in studio and do it. So we wanted it to be relatively live, and move around, and if the mic hits something, or you hit a bad chord or whatever it is, keep it. And it just adds to the charm of it being live.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. We will look forward to what's to come this year. But before that, people can check out when this airs, the new single, Might As Well Lead, will be out. So people can go check that out. And then on August 20th, go check out Devil, and then keep an eye on all your socials to see what might be coming next.
Yes, we have another song coming out between that. So we'll have a third single come out before Devil.
Oh, okay.
And so, Instagram, Manny Blu Music, Facebook, Manny Blu, Manny Blu Music on YouTube. We're constantly putting out content because we can't be on the road just quite yet. So we've got a lot of stuff coming, and that we've been working on, and I think it's so much fun. So subscribe to YouTube, TikTok. Now we've had a little moment on TikTok. So Manny Blu Music on TikTok and Instagram. And you can go to my website and sign up to the newsletter and get all the updates effortlessly.
Thank you guys once again so much for listening, and thank you to Manny for stopping by and sharing his story. Be sure to check out his new single, Might As Well Lead, which is available now on streaming services everywhere. And on August 20th, be sure to check out his new EP, Devil. Please also make sure you are liking, sharing, following, subscribing to us on whatever streaming service you are listening on, and head over to social media. Give us a follow there as well so you can stay up to date on all the exciting episodes that we have coming up in the future. Thank you once again so much for listening, and we'll see you next time on The Music Made Me.